Whitley Strieber, and you're listening to My Alien Life.
We were in line during COVID. My kids at the school was giving out food, right? The earringing happens while I'm there with my kids in the van. Now, believe me, it's become kind of a new normal where everybody understands something is part of our lives that we can't see, and it is kind of like mischievous is the right word. I say, they're tricksters, but mischievous probably is a better word. There's a childlike component to it. So anyhow, the earringing happens while we're sitting there. I say to my kids, I got to take this call. That's what it's a joke. They know what that means about. It's become so normal, as crazy as this sounds to everybody else. And I get this earringing. I said to the kids, I've got to take this call, right? All I do is put it up, pick it up, push record. Upon playback, there's a voice that says, it is real. The voice says, they don't use the food. All right, now, in an accusing way. And I'm thinking, man, are they watching even this little stuff?
My Alien Life is recorded high atop the Northern Rocky Mountains and is heard all over the world, and you can listen everywhere fine podcasts are found. My website is www.myalienlifepodcast.com. There you'll find links to every episode, stories, photos, and much more. I'm your host, Cam Logan. This is My Alien Life, and the podcast starts right now.
My Alien Life Podcast.
Three, two.
Armed with a simple $5 old-school Tracfone, Gary Arnold has recorded and has demonstrated bizarre interactions with disembodied whispers. These peculiar whispers defy any rational explanation. That and more is coming right up on My Alien Life.
How you doing?
Good, you?
Good.
I'm glad you're excited. That's all I got to say.
Hey, life's good. I mean, I really can't complain except for the weird spirits or whatever.
Well, even it keeps life interesting.
That's it. Even that, it put everything in perspective, and it makes a big difference. I'm really good at compartmentalizing, so
right on.
And make sense of humor too. So yeah.
And my guest tonight is Gary Arnold. Gary, I was looking through Facebook today, and 1 year ago today, amazing day. And yeah, it was April Fool's, but we woke up to a really nasty blizzard. Of course, we were right in the middle of a pandemic, and then like right at this time, 1 year ago today, we had an earthquake. And
wow.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Oh man.
I'm just remembering that.
Yeah, I mean, the natural world's crazy like that.
And you have a sort of a crazy world. I did watch your movie last night. And,
well.
Just throw the name out of it. Let's not talk about that right away, but let's just throw the name of your documentary that you produced.
Yeah. It's Subterranean Séance. The evidence speaks. I mean, it's amateur. It's just a way to like put some structure to it, so that people can maybe identify with, okay, what's this phenomenon? What's he talking about? So kind of artsy fartsy, but at the same time, it has a serious component too. On one level, it's an EVP treasure hunt, And I don't tell people how to interpret the EVPs I'll sprinkle throughout the documentary. And the other part of it is a little analysis and my own opinion of, hey, what's going on here?
There's nothing wrong with art. I mean, that's basically what you're setting out to do in the first place. Unknowingly, sometimes people do that. I think it's when they tend to try to be more scientific that they falter a bit, just because it gets too convoluted. But when you sort of let your mind flow and let it wander and be creative, I think it creates something. You created something unworldly, actually, I believe.
Yeah. I used to think the natural world was one way, and I was limiting myself, to be honest with you. Suddenly, this weird phenomenon that started a few years ago has made me reconsider a lot, and it made me think that, hey, the universe is a lot more complex and a lot more intricate and a lot more mysterious, in a sense, than I ever took it to be. So, which is good. What's
really strange? You're in Oxford, Pennsylvania, right?
Correct.
So last week, I had a podcast, a gentleman from Oxford, Alabama. So that's two of the Oxfords. I don't know how many Oxfords there are in the U.S., but
coincidence or
well,
I'm not a mystical guy. Believe me, I want to put it on the table. Before this started in my life, which is pretty much my life was normal. I mean, in every respect, happily married, 2 kids. Actually, my anniversary is coming up this weekend on the 3rd.
Happy anniversary, man.
Thank you. 21 years.
Wow.
Amazing. It's a blink of an eye. But until this happened, I really never was into hocus pocus or anything like that. I'm not about that. I'm not a scientist, but I've always had an interest in science, especially meteorology. That's what I started out studying in college. Went to Millersville University. And there's some write-up about me, in Millersville and stuff, where I told them, because I was starting to formulate, hey, I'm going to create this documentary about this weird phenomenon.
So how long ago was that, though? I mean, when you were going to college, how long ago?
That was in the late 80s, all the way to 91. I graduated in 1991.
So you and I are exactly the same age then, I think. So
yeah.
Because I graduated like in 90, something like that. I don't know. It happened, and I got a piece of paper, but sometime in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, I have one too. It's on my wall. So.
But you wanted to be a weatherman?
Actually, I started out in meteorology. I still have an interest in the weather. Like I said, the natural world interests me. So, I have an open mind, and I'm excited about it. I still get excited about snow days. Now, maybe working in academia at the local university all these years, because I can still say, oh, snow days. COVID changed that. I mean,
right.
with that situation, we can still work from home. We don't have snow days. So, and I don't think we'll ever really go back to that. I think that that's a permanent change, that now they can, you can still be working from home and students can still be connected. It'll be a rare thing to have a snow day. Where I grew up, always excited about snow, especially as a child, not just the magic of snow, able to whitewash the world, my world, but the idea that I could be out of school. And it's like, a day off to do what I wanted and play with my friends. So that was always a good thing. So that never went away, even in adulthood. I still see the magic in snow.
Well, we adjusted well, I think. Hindsight's 20/20, and I really don't have anything to compare it to, but we're still adjusting. So I would imagine, even what we're doing now will look entirely different, 6 months from now, but not bad. I think if we had to do it again, which I hope we never have to do again, I think we'll do it a little differently and quicker, but nonetheless, we did okay. We're doing okay.
Yeah. Hey, I, honestly, within my immediate circle, all right, I have not had anyone, no fatalities, no hospitalization. So, I'm thankful. I just got my vaccine this past week. On Monday, I got the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. So it's a one-shot deal. So
I'm a Pfizer.
Huh? Are you?
I'm a
So
Pfizer
you got
guy.
another one to get?
No, I'm done. I'm
good.
my second shot was 8 days ago.
Gotcha.
So bring it on, man.
Yeah, tell my kids. They're looking for, because my son, he's 18 and he's going to college, but he's doing it virtually, and it's not the same experience. And I was telling him, oh, you know, because I talk about my college days when I'm on campus and the girls and everything.
Yeah.
I said,
Beer.
It's different now. I said, it'll get better. It'll get better. But
Right.
he gets his vaccine next week, so he's happy about that. So.
No, I was talking to a old college chum of mine, like, over this past weekend, and we were talking about, you know, we took, it was a little extreme, a little bit of partying. We took some academic breaks sometimes because we had to. It was just too stressful to be in that party mode all the time. It just got to a point where, you know, I don't even know how we ended up that way, but we had a lot of fun, and you know, it only took me like one extra semester, so I was, you know, I'm still patting myself on the back for that.
That's awesome. Well, you know, hey, that's life and then memories, and so I mean, you gotta have that healthy balance between, you know, hey,
Right.
studies and one hand and you know, social life, and that's part of the experience too. And you know, some people go a little bit more into that direction. I work with students, obviously, and I work in academia. Like I said, I teach writing, you know, in academic support capacity. You know, basically the writing center,
Right.
college work, and you have over a decade. But I always encourage the students to not, you know, especially students who are already academically successful. I'm like, well, you know, you need to have that other component too to have that healthy balance. Because sometimes you can go too far and just, you know, just the books and stuff, and there's more to life than that. But the students who need assistance, on the other hand, definitely they need to look at it differently. So I present it differently. So
Right.
you just got to know your audience, right?
Exactly. So when did you start thinking about what could lie beyond this world? Because obviously, you know, we're going to talk about this $5 Tracfone, but when I graduated from college, I had a $250 bag phone with
Right.
with a big old battery.
All right. Number one, born and raised in a Christian household. Okay,
Right.
So my dad, God bless him, he's alive still. And but when I turned 16, he gave me the choice. He said, you can go to church with the rest of us, but I consider you an adult enough that you can stay home. And I chose to stay home. I said, I believe I can commune better with God when getting a good night's sleep, especially because, you know, being a teenager, Saturday night I was out doing things, and, you know, I needed that sleep on Sunday. But I still always had that teaching, that again, I Christian by culture, you know what I'm saying, by how I was raised and
Yes.
stuff. And in an abstract way, I say, I believe that God exists, and Jesus, for me, is the representation of, you know, hey, there's somebody you want to be like, and have a faith in, you know, in integrity and character and doing the right thing, and even self-sacrifice. So all those were part of my life. But when I went to college and stuff, you know, I moved away from a lot of that, living with my girlfriend, and just, you know, hey, life has a way. But it doesn't mean that I ever totally forgot those things. All right. So in the back of my mind, I was always a spiritual person, maybe not a religious person, is a better way of putting it. You know, I commune with nature and get out, and the best thing is a nice sunny day, going out for a nice walk in the park or something. And we do, my wife and kids and I, we do a lot of hiking. Actually, COVID's been good for that because it's got us to go to new trails and things that we never would have gone to, I believe. So it's got us outside, but I really commune with nature. And so, long story short, because I could talk for hours, believe me. So this was like this event that happened back in December 2017 was a confirmation in some sense. I always believed on some level that there's more to life than meets the eye, literally and figuratively. And what happened in 2017, when I was alone in the university library taking my lunch break as usual, because I'd try to get away, you know, so I didn't have to be on the clock, kind of, you know, like, hey, well, I'm doing my own thing for my lunch break, so I'm not going to be bothered. And I was getting ready to read Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, of all things, because it's right before Christmas break. And the students started going home. And I'm in the library, and I get this really bizarre ear ringing in only my right ear. And it's so weird. It's so intense. It's almost like crystalline and coated sounding. It's really high, almost like if you have good hearing, maybe you can hear bats, the noise a bat makes when they're talking. It's really, high frequency. Well, this was similar. So now I have this old Tracfone, $5 Tracfone that my wife made me get because she says, well, you don't really get into today's technology and the smartphone and stuff. At least carry some kind of phone so I can reach it any time because maybe you're out of the office wandering around campus. And so I had this Tracfone I bought for $5 from the local Rite Aid. And my daughter was there when I bought it. And I'm like, it was on sale for $10. And I said, no, I'm not going to pay $10 for this phone. And so I talked the lady down to $5. And anyhow, so I had this phone on me in my pocket. I thought, wow, that's a really weird noise. I wonder if this phone could record it with the voice record feature, the audio feature. And I pushed record, and then upon playback, I heard a whisper, my name. Now, there's nobody on this floor in the library. And I'm looking around, and it said, Mr. Arnold. And I'm just like, okay, somebody's got to be tricking me here. So there's got to be a prank going on. There's got to be somebody playing this kind of game because this shouldn't be there. But I left mystified that day. And, well, curiosity killed the cat, so to speak. I went back and I said, I'm going to see if this bizarre thing happened, if it happens again. Sure enough, it did. And I started thinking, when I recorded this, the ear ringing, which again is so strange because I don't hear voices in my head. Upon playback, because I asked the question this time, when that ear ringing happened, I said, is anyone here? Upon playback, there's a whispered voice, and there's these beings, whatever they are, they inhabit a world of whispers. So key to this is amplification. You amplify the sound, and there's a voice that says, yes, people. Okay, so I thought, I got to be cracking up. There's something wrong here. There's nobody here in the library. And I'm sitting here on the top floor of the library because that was a place with total peace. And suddenly I'm getting this interaction from the invisible world. And so, I went to see my family doctor. We had, I was like, he's like, well, these could be audio hallucinations. And I said, I'll do whatever. And it's just, I talked to my wife and stuff. I said, this is some crazy stuff. But it continued. It continued every day. Now, I understand in December 2017, then we have our break, our semester break. Right? So I come back in January, and I'm eager to see if this continues because during the break, it wasn't happening. And originally, this only happened in a certain spot in the library where I work. But then these voices, I'm going to call them what they are, they became more conversational, and they let me know that I'm not hostage to that setting, that I can go anywhere and they will follow me, they will come with me. And I was like, this can't be real. Sure enough, it was. So now, here over 3.25 years later of daily interactions, I can have it anywhere, and including, sitting on the toilet. I'm just talking about they are everywhere, and the conversations I've had, and I call them conversations, they're interactions, I call them sessions, and I use the title Subterranean Séance, and it's not that I'm trying to contact the dead, right? I know that association is there, that I'm calling forth the dead. And I'm not. And there's never any kind of ritual or anything like that. I don't ask for specific names, although they seem to know the names of my family, the pets we've had, alive and dead. It's just some crazy stuff. They know. They even told me when I was going through the medical process to get the blood work from the doctor. I played it for the doctor. He looked at me. He was absolutely floored, my family doctor. I said, I don't understand what's going on. And he, of course, he said, we had the detailed MRI, contrast MRIs, everything, blood work, psychiatric analysis, everything. They have never been healthier. That's the weirdest thing. Right? Honestly, my health improved during this period. And he's like, I don't understand it. And when he heard the voice I would play for my doctor, I said, now listen to this. I said, this voice tells me to go get blood work, right? Now, he said it's the first time he's ever taken any kind of instruction, in a sense, from the invisible realm, spiritual, ethereal. I try to say they're ethereal entities because they're also, I want to emphasize this, they're tricksters. They're cosmic comedians. There's something about them. There's a sense of humor to everything. They like jokes. One interview I had, I said, think about Robin Williams, and God bless him and God rest his soul. But work from work, there's an element of humor that maybe that's what the common denominator we have, right? Maybe that's something we could build a bridge. It's so out there, all right? So we're talking about everything. We're talking about they even will make jokes, and I'm going to put it out there, flatulence. I was going to have a session, all right? And this is so out there, all right? And so I was kind of gassy, and I passed one right before the session. I'm talking about
You ripped
immediately.
one, just say it.
Yes. And guess what? On playback, you have a voice that comes on and says, "He let a stinker."
No way.
And it is, yes.
Seriously?
This is absolutely, so this is the thing that
Right.
it begs the question, what the hell? I mean, what's going on here? And they watch us. I've gleaned so much about their realm that number one, they don't eat where they are. Right? I said, do you eat? I think I sent you this clip.
Yeah.
And they don't do that. And then I said, what? I said, why are you interacting with me? The common sense thing. I mean, who am I? I'm no one special. All right. You're our favorite. What does that mean? And that's so manipulative. I have them saying that I'm their favorite. Okay. And I'm like, I said, this has got to be a joke. I said, but the thing is, this isn't like, I don't sit around, and I've had people ask me to contact, believe me, when people start you get a reputation, if you're actually in touch with something like that, could you contact my son who committed suicide? I said, I don't do that.
Yeah.
I said, I'm not going to go there. I said, I'm not a medium. I said, this is not what you think it is. Number one, I think they are tricksters. I said, they have a sense of humor that I don't. I mean, I could sit here and I just use the flatulence thing as one thing that I pulled out. I sent you the clip about the pigeons, all right?
Yes.
I believe I did.
Yeah, talk about that.
Yeah, you could ask them any question. When this earringing happens, that's the sign that they want to talk. I know they want to talk when I get this crystalline earring, and it's coded. There's an element to it that's almost like Morse code. Now, I've tried to translate. It's not Morse code. But believe me, I mean, you start to think exotic things like, all right, is our government using some kind of AI? Is there some kind of satellite signal? This began right after, I want to go back, this began right after, and you remember the news, when our Cuban ambassadors, the U.S. ambassadors to Cuba, their brains had been affected by apparently some kind of sonic weapon.
Right.
The accusation was it was probably Russia, because who has the technical expertise, and there was brain damage. All right, so this kind of like, I was like, this is like maybe
Havana
40 days
syndrome.
after that was right. And I was just like, okay, that was in the news. And the doctor, again, everything, I've never been healthier, and this is crazy. And I've been interviewed and stuff, and people, I said, you want to talk to my family doctor? He's willing to go on record. The people, I had an interview recently. They had the information, talked to my doctor, and they said, we could not independently confirm it. What do you mean? I challenged. I said, I gave you all the information. I said, you're just trying to create a certain narrative here. And it's not fair. I mean, when I give you the information that you can talk to my doctor and verify everything I've said, you still won't do it because you don't want, me to be seen in a positive light. You want to be so skeptical to the point, and create this impression of doubt. It's stupid. I understand how the game's played, but anyway, about the pigeons. So I raise all kinds of pigeons. I import pigeons from Asia, tropical, colorful pigeons, rainbow pigeons, but I had these extra white homing pigeons. And I have too many pigeons because that can also you have too many pets. You're like, well, I got to do something with some of these. So anyway, the earringing happens, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, okay, I want to ask him this question, right? And so I ask, what should I do with my white pigeons, right? because I have extra ones. Well, upon playback, a nice, bold, Class A EVP, a voice is heard saying, sell them. All right? And I sent you that example. Sell them. Okay, so now, did I sell the pigeons? Yes. But because they told me to? No. And that's, see, I just think sometimes they're into everything, not just flatulence, not just if you're selling pigeons. We were in line during COVID. My kids at the school was giving out food, right? All right, the school was giving out food because the lunches weren't available. So we were waiting in line last year, right, in the springtime for food. The earringing happens while I'm there with my kids in the van. Now, believe me, it's become kind of a new normal where everybody understands something is part of our lives that we can't see, and it is kind of like mischievous is the right word. I say, they're tricksters, but mischievous probably is a better word. There's a childlike component to it. So anyhow, the earringing happens while we're sitting there. I say to my kids, I got to take this call. That's what it's a joke. They know what that means, though. It's become so normal, as crazy as this sounds to everybody else. It's our normal for years now, since this phenomenon started happening, that my whole extended family's involved in this too, in the sense that they're like, well, they worry about, the blowback. This is so crazy and out there. What's going to happen to their, because my brother and sister they have their own franchises, and they're just like in the home instead franchises, and so everybody's like got a little bit of like stepping back. But anyhow, I'm sitting there in the van with the kids, getting ready in the food line, all right, for the school district, and I get this earringing. I said to the kids, I've got to take this call, right? All I do is put it up, pick it up, push record. So I didn't say anything, and then when the earring stops, I stopped, pushing the stop button. Upon playback, there's a voice that says, and again, I can send this to you independently. You can verify it with specialists, forensically, it is real. The voice says they don't use the food. All right, now, in an accusing way. And I'm thinking, man, are they watching even this little stuff? And I went back to my wife, who's back home, because we were working from home last spring as well. And I said, this is like the third time we've got some free food from the school district. Is there something we're not using here? Because I'm being accused, or we are as a family, of not using this charity. All right? And we were giving some of the food to my family and stuff, and I'm saying my parents, and they didn't use the rice and stuff. Now again, I don't know the interpretation. That's one of the things I try to. The strongest thing that I stand on, and I absolutely will take any kind of polygraph, is these voices, according to science, should not exist. That's all I'm putting on the table. The interpretation of what they're saying, I'm not going there because, hey, I think they're tricksters. Now, some people say, well, because I've had, people in my extended family say, you're interacting with demons. You're interacting with something diabolical. They've latched on to you and your family because, and I said, well, what, because we don't go to church on Sunday? And I said, this is stupid. I said, I'm a spiritual person. I'm a good person, I just have a great reputation at the university, great family man, and it just like, so just to say something weird and wicked has latched on to me, and in a way it's obsessed with my family. It's just like, well, I don't feel threatened by these. I said, no matter what, they have said things before that have made me mad, these ethereal entities, and I know how to put them in their place. As crazy as it is, I say, why am I at all concerned by a being that is nothing but a whisper? So you, in my realm, don't seem to have much of a reality. I mean, I have to amplify what you're saying to even understand you. So why? And again, and it's just like I have them, these beings apologizing, these recordings of them apologizing for offending me. You can't make this crap up. This is so far beyond the pale. And it's just easier to just say, Mr. Arnold's got to be crazy. This can't be true. I'm willing to put everything on the table and say, hey, you analyze it. I've had analysts, people actually forensically, and I could give some names, but I got to check with them first, if you understand. One guy's Canadian. These people professionally analyzed it. The thing is, if you do a voice analysis today with computer software, you can show, just like a fingerprint, digitally, all right, that there's a waveform that can't be faked, all right? So, number one, these utterances, phoneme by phoneme, can be analyzed and show that, number one, this isn't a con, that there's no fraud here, there's no joke. They're legit. Number two, how they formulate their phonemes, their vocalizations, is different than we do. We use a larynx, air passing through, all right? So it creates a certain kind of sound wave. These beings are not doing that. They're using some kind of, almost like an energy packet, that they're taking ambient white noise and they're actually twisting that into intelligible speech. It blows my mind. But what, again, that's the thing that I'm bringing to the table. According to our understanding of science, these beings, these vocalizations, these live stream, you could live stream this, and I've offered. I said I could be in a Faraday cage. You know what a Faraday cage is?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's a way that you can sit inside this tent where electromagnetic energy, radiation cannot enter or pass out of. So inside that, it couldn't be something that's faked. You couldn't say, well, somebody's got some kind of transmitter over here and they're beaming it into his phone. And I've done it. Again, I've done it with different phones. I mean, of the same make and model, so many meters apart, different makes and models. The modern smartphones will not capture these whispers. And these whispers will answer me in real time. There's not like a delay. When it happens, and it happens every day, and it's like whenever they want to talk. But believe me, there have been times in the middle of the night, more than once, many times, where they wake me up. And that noise is so intense. And I've gone to not just the regular doctors with the scans, and the blood work, and the psychiatrists, and the psychologists, and the psychiatrists, but I've actually gone to ENT, it's ear, nose, and throat specialists, and they've tested my hearing, which is like incredible, in my right ear, as crazy as that is. There's an aberration here, so, but thankfully there are no alien implants or anything like that. Nothing that is physiologically wrong. All right, so there's no brain tumor. But what I'm putting on the table, I keep going back to this, is so absurd, so ludicrous. Think about it. We're talking about invisible entities who claim to be alien. I have recordings where they claim to be alien and otherworldly. And the weirdest thing is, and I know you're familiar with this as I sent you the information, 9 times out of 10, if I ask a question, they will, upon playback of the recording, answer the question before I ask it, which means one of two things to me. Either they're telepathic, they know what I'm about to ask, or time is not as we understand it, and our whole appreciation of things being linear isn't true. All right. Now, I have so many questions I've asked them, and including what it's like in their world and all the things. And I've had these different scientists say, okay, what are they doing here? And one of the people you're probably familiar with, Robert Bigelow.
Sure.
His Bigelow Aerospace.
Right.
Big deal, billionaire. So he's got one of these guys. I'm not going to say his name, but they had me searching for someone, remote viewing with these beings, and I would send them the clips. And the one person they were looking for somebody. And anyhow, one of Bob Bigelow's circle, I got the right answer with this. This person they were looking for was, the being said that she was in a place with salty lakes.
Right.
Just crazy stuff. That's exactly what they were. That was it. And it was just like, okay, but I didn't make a penny from this. I was offering my services. Just number one is say I'm legitimate, and here it adds to my credibility in certain circles. Suddenly saying, well, this guy's got it right. This can't be a coincidence. Can't be a fluke. After so many times, you start establishing, a positive reputation that this guy's legit. That's what I'm putting on the table. Same thing here. the clips that I have are just as I was going to draw the analogy with fingerprints. If you think about a picture that's been photoshopped, pixel by pixel, you have computer software that can analyze that and prove whether it's legit or not. All right, to the point where it's almost to the point where it's like an atom or electron. Like we can see if this has been rearranged, and it's a counterfeit. Same thing with voice clips. You can actually take them piece by piece, just like pixel by pixel, but this is by waveform by waveform. You can analyze it forensically and prove that it's authentic. All right, they'll hold up in any court of law. That's where I am with this. That this stuff, I'm willing to have anyone continue, because I've had some analyzed, and I'm constantly getting new ones every day. I'm willing to have all of it on the table. And I'm just like, it's exciting on one hand, but I want people in the audience to understand. People think that's a blessing. That's not necessarily all blessing. All right. The idea that
I wouldn't, and I wanted to jump on that really quick. I wouldn't think it would be a blessing because, I wouldn't want that. Do you ever feel like you just want to turn it off and walk away? Sure.
I actually thought, and I talked to my my doctor about this. I said, and this is getting to be so distracting, and I'm because I have maybe such a strong personality, and I'm able to compartmentalize and say, I will only give you entities who are tricksters and mischievous. I'll only give you so much of my life, a small slice. I say, I'm doing what you've asked, because they actually like the idea of the film. They like the idea that they are like Dr. Seuss's Horton Hears a Who, and that's in my webpage. The comparison is little who's in Whoville, all right, who no one else hears but Horton with his big elephant ears, all right? So the whole jungle of animals, and they're all like making fun of him, that Horton's ridiculous and he's insane. At the end of it all, obviously, the whole jungle of animals comes to realize, oh, these who in Whoville or whatever, they exist. They're microscopic, invisible to the world entities. And that's the same thing here. All I'm trying to do is put on the table, we've said it a lot of times, to say, there's something not right here. And I'm saying what we've been told isn't right. That apparently there are these entities who have an element of humor, right, and express it quite often, and can be judgmental. I mean, I don't want to diminish that. There's a dimension. There are some of them who are vulgar, all right, who will use words that I don't use in common speech, the F word usually, and I have no time for that negativity. And and again, you get an apology. I get an apology when I say, I'm not going to put up with this. If you want to talk to me, and that's the same thing. That was like I was saying when I went to the family doctor. I said, is there a possibility of me I would rather be deaf in my right ear. There are times when I think if we could just disconnect the auditory nerve in that ear. And he's like, see, and he was right. I mean, I was being rash. He's like, what's to stop them from going to the other ear? And he's right. And he's going, and if they're wanting that kind of, they're craving that kind of attention, okay, they focused on your right ear for whatever reason. I've asked them, what is the reason? I've actually asked the beings, why my right ear? And the answer is, it's our connection. Okay, just like I've asked them, well, why do you speak English? And the answer, because you understand English. I guess it's common sense. I don't understand Mandarin. So, okay, I can get that. So they're smart asses. And this is so, I know I'm talking to you, and it sounds like I'm actually kind of like, happy. I am still a happy-go-lucky guy, but this is something out there, so far out there. I'm talking about, beings that look at humanity, and a lot of them are, and I'm going to say 8 out of 10 of them are not the uplifting, we're here to encourage you, the angelic, we're here to support people and to give them strength in their hour of need. If anything, these are condescending jerks, a lot of them, who perhaps make sport of our predicament. These are not our celestial brothers and sisters coming to save us. I want to say that. These are something entirely other that maybe watch us as entertainment, and it can be manipulative when they, and I have it crystal clear. I can send you, and they say I'm their favorite. What on earth does that mean? I mean, that scares me. What do you mean? Am I some kind of pet? Am I, in a zoo, maybe a virtual zoo? Maybe this is all just some kind of fantasy we live in?
You certainly could be. I mean, that's a spin on it that I've never heard before.
And it's frightening.
It would be.
Honestly, when this first happened, I thought, one of the thoughts that came to me, something horrible's happened to me. I'm in a coma or worse. There's no way. Well, my brain could not reconcile. This is part of reality. I still, every day, wake up and shake my head saying, my God, what is going on? Why is this real? But sometimes, like I said in the documentary, you got to come to terms with things, even if you don't like it. Perhaps you have to deal with it. And it's the same thing here. Overall, do I think these are beings? There's definitely sentient creatures. Creatures is meaning that they were created, but my concept of God is God created everything, good and bad and mischievous. So I'll still call them creatures. These are not dead people. I'm going to go on record here, even though I do not believe these are those who have passed on. I think that they do have something to do with death. More than once they've referred. One of the questions I asked as well, and it's in the documentary, and you've seen it. Again, why are you dealing with me? And the voice at the beginning, when I play it back, says, they will all be dead. I don't know what that means. And again, everybody dies, at least in my understanding. So are they gatekeepers to maybe the other side? Are they something that deals with, the spirits of those who've passed on? But I don't believe they are those people. I mean, I don't. I'm convinced. And again, this is over 3 years of asking questions about their realm, what it's like, the temperature, if they have that, whether they eat or not. It's some crazy stuff. I could go on, believe me, I could go on for days. I could write a book. I'm just, I'm so lazy about things. I don't write, even though I'm...
You're a writer, I thought.
Yeah. I don't write books. I'm lazy. And maybe that... It's
don't let any of your students hear this. Come on.
But I have to have a sense of humor about it because it's too outlandish.
Writing's hard.
I want anyone in the audience to realize this is so far gone. And when you start talking about spirits, some of my friends, they believe they're spirits. Some of my people who are also investigating this, researchers, put it that way, scientists, they believe they're alien. Maybe the better way of phrasing it, how do they phrase it? Non-human entities. That's the way they phrase it, okay? These scientists. Which could mean anything that's not human, I guess. And they are telepathically, apparently, linked to me. That they found me to be open-minded. This is what a scientist... They found you to be open-minded and receptive to the idea of their reality enough that they're willing to interact with you. And again, I said, well, what's the agenda? I said, for me to tell the world, okay, I'm doing that. I mean, much to my chagrin and much to my ridicule. I mean, telling people that that's not a way to get ahead in life for the most part. I guess I could go, a joke, I guess, Kenneth Arnold, back in 1947, the newspaper, when he described what he saw when he was flying as like these discs that, went across, almost like... went across the water. The newspaper said they were flying saucers, and that was the phrase that was coined from his experience. And he goes down in history as, the guy who coined the term, but he didn't really coin it, but his description, it was reframed in a way that, became marketable. But still, I'd say maybe I'll go down in the history books as a person who had some serious evidence, way more than compelling evidence that we're not alone in the universe. Maybe that's what people will remember me for better or worse. I mean, if it's the cosmic comedian element, some people are going to get a real laugh out of this. And to think that maybe, again, there's a quality about people, about human nature, we don't want to be seen in a disparaging light. And to think that maybe there are intellects or sentient creatures, entities who look at us in a way condescending and sarcastic and almost like we're their entertainment or pets, God forbid, in this matrix we're in. Oh, that's disturbing. So, it's disturbing. I don't know how else to put it.
Well, you keep bringing up this thing that, this thought that it's unusual, and yes, it is. However, you're amongst the right people here because, I've talked to many, 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 many people, and I get emails all the time, and I get EVPs sent to me, and I get stories that are 5 or 6 sentences, and that person doesn't want to talk to me ever again, just because,
right.
They blurted it out, they got it off their chest, and maybe that was it, or maybe they're afraid to go into it deeper. So, here you run the gamut. Everybody that has had this experience has had a different experience. There's
right.
a lot of similarities, a lot of common denominators there. So, yeah, we've done this before, but yours is, to me, the difference would be the fact you think that they're tricksters, and there's people that think that they're a guiding force in their life. There's people, of course, and you've done the research and you've heard about that, but we don't need to go into what everybody else is doing. But it's, I think that, you bring up a lot of really, really interesting things. And I don't, I just don't see, if we watch Ghost Hunters, whatever, and they're not getting into it at this level, they're not following around a guy like you and who all of a sudden picks up his phone and starts. So what does that look like? You hit record and you stand there still, tell everybody to be quiet. What happens?
Okay, what I do, earring happens. I have to choose at that moment whether I'm going to interact or not. And there are times when I'm not going to play their game because they crave it. Believe me.
They don't leave you a message then?
They're not going to leave me a message.
Okay.
But they're going to be insistent and persistent. They're going to keep after me. So what I do, if I want to talk, if I want to hear, maybe listen is a better word, I will pick up my phone. I'll hold it in my right hand usually. That's not hand specific. I've done all kinds of tests, and it can be on the table. But usually I'll hold it, push record. If I have a thought that pops into my head, a question, I'll ask it. If not, when the earring stops either way, I'll stop the recording. Upon playback, almost every time, they're saying something. Usually, it is, you wouldn't know. Usually, the message is, how are you? We'd like to talk. Are you ignoring us? The smart-ass stuff. You're our favorite kind of things. Sometimes they call me a little boy's voice comes on. This is the creepy stuff. All right. So you have the feminine, you have a masculine. A lot of times they're accented. I sent you a clip with my wife.
I've heard accented. I've heard British accents. I've heard Southern. Yeah. Yeah,
it's crazy stuff. So I have a little boy says daddy, calls me daddy. Okay. And so daddy this, daddy that. And if I'm in the wrong mood, I say, number one, you're not my son. All right, so then the voice will come back and say, daddy, and then they'll say the name of our dead rabbit, which I asked them about years ago. A couple years ago, it was Cuddles, which they got right. I said, what's the name of our dead rabbit? The rabbit that passed. And I put it in a very positive sense. On the playback, before I ask the question, the voice comes on and says the right name, Cuddles. I've shared this. It's legit. I can share it with you, share everything with you. Don't worry about it. And then, so if I'm arguing with this little boy's voice, then he'll say, daddy, don't, Cuddles. And just throw things, string things together to piss me off. All right? So that can happen. Now, there have been times they've been supportive and keep the faith. There are encouraging angels of our better nature, whatever you want to call them. So maybe, there's been something, don't give up. I have that one. So there are positive voices. But here's what's fascinating for the audience. There are specific voices that seem to be assigned, with specific messages. All right. So if I hear a certain voice, it's always the same kind of message. I am not saying the message is identical, but the voice delivers a certain tone, a certain uplifting message. I will never have an uplifting voice from before deliver a sour message, not in my experience so far. But I will have a voice that is saying, the F word. I don't know about your audience, so I wasn't going to say. And that's the same voice that will always say that word, all right? And will say things that are controversial, racial, all right? They will deliberately say the N-word. It's the same one, all right? So I've identified. Now I'm open-minded enough to even go beyond everything I've talked about here and say there is the possibility on some freakish level that there's one speck of an entity who's a ventriloquist who likes playing these games. I'm willing to even entertain that all these different voices are all just at these expectations on purpose to deliberately get a rise. So something that can sound satanic may also sound angelic, divine. I'm willing to say this could be an all grand deception, a method of camouflaging their true nature. So I'm open-minded. And that's where I really want to go back to what I put on the table, which I'm willing to have tested in a real setting, which science can say this shouldn't be happening. This guy should not be getting these vocals. It's not about interpretation. I'm not decided on their agenda, what their intent is, should I say. So the interpretation of the messages, that's something separate. But they have been uplifting. They've seemed to be positive. And there have been, more so than not, the ornery or mischievous ones. And then there have been the vulgar ones. But there's also one that always says, another thing, it's all a dream. And it says that there's a certain voice that says it's all a dream. And then they even said, and they're cryptic too, which is all the part of the game playing that can piss me off. I mean, I'm just like, I want, Peter Gabriel's Games Without Frontiers song. Well, I want what's the point here? If there's a voice that says it's all a dream, and then another one, same voice, another message, another day says it's all a dream, then there's a moment of silence, and he says, what's that mean? Well, okay. So it just feels like I'm being toyed with. But when it comes to some remote viewing, as I said with Bob Bigelow and stuff, they've been accurate. All right, so this is not something that's all just a game for without reason. There seems to be, they want me to be seen in a certain way. As maybe one person called me, "You know what you are," and I said, "What?" "We've already got a title for you." And I said, "What are you talking about?" They said, these other researchers, they said, "You are what we've come to call the disclosure pawn." And I said, pawn to me, I'm a chess player. I've been a chess player since I was 8 years old. Pawns, a lot of times I look down and they're the foot soldiers, but pawns can get more powerful as they get to the other side of the board. I don't know if you play chess, and pawns can become queens. But I wasn't sure how to interpret that. The disclosure pawn. With disclosure of what? That we're not alone in the universe? I mean, I don't see flying saucers. I'm not going to be disclosing things like that. But the idea of ethereal entities who claim, and I have the recordings, who claim to be otherworldly and alien, and they even have one that says they're interdimensional. And they actually go beyond that. They say we're in every dimension. All right? I have a clip where the being answers. I said, "Are you this and this?" And then we are in every dimension. So what does that mean? I don't know. And again,
you talk to people who you talk to an exorcist, and they talk about how demons are tricksters and just fuck with you mercilessly, and
right.
Or they could. They always are, because they're going to be your best pal, or they're going to flip on you. You can expect anything, and you shouldn't be surprised.
Right, and that's it. So is it demonic? My heart says what people in olden ages, or our ancestors, called demons or gods or celestial angels. Perhaps today we would consider, E.T. I mean, saying, a strange being that comes and has powers and stuff. I'm open-minded enough to, I'm not a dogmatic Christian, to say that Jesus was a spaceman, or some kind of, I'm willing to entertain ideas. I watch ancient astronaut shows and stuff, and, I'm willing to be open-minded about it. But are these demons and they're very wimpy demons. I mean, and I go back to, and that's the thing, when they have really pissed me off, and I'm able to extract afterwards an apology where they say, "We're sorry, I'm sorry," and a lot of times there's a being that speaks about others, all right, and almost like a gatekeeper, and I don't mean that like a menagerie where the creature is looking at the others as inferior, but he always uses the word they. And that one clip I sent you about whether they eat or not, the being answers using that third person pronoun, they. They don't do that.
Right.
So is he speaking about others? Like maybe they are beings we consider an afterlife, and they don't partake in.
I don't think you should be so hasty to call them wimpy. Because
I do only because look, it's worked. Maybe that's how they get it right.
Yeah.
I've said before to them, I said, if you really have power, right? Why would you be dealing with this abstraction where I have to amplify these little whispers? I say you're so wimpy and wispy. I said I'm not going to sit here and have my life ruled by what could be some kind of philosophical flea, in a sense. I mean, some microbe. I said, maybe that's just how I am. I said, I believe in an afterlife. I believe in God. I mean, I believe that I'm saved. I mean, I'm not a perfect person. I'm a sinner, right? I've been raised a Christian. This is part of my cultural, part of my mindset. It's impossible to just totally divorce myself from it unless I have some kind of brain lobotomy. I mean, that's how I've been raised most of my life. So I'm going to see through that prism, but I'm going to be aware that that's not necessarily the truth either. But I do believe these beings, and I have actually talked to them about religion. I sat there reading the Lord's Prayer on purpose in this library where I work. Now, as I read, the ear-ringing happened. I knew it would. I had a sensation it was going to happen. So as I'm reading it, and I got to the end, I stopped the record, and as I'm reading it, a voice comes on and says, "I doubt it," all right, about the Lord's Prayer.
Right.
Now, I erased that clip. That's the clip that I erased because I thought, well, that's pretty obvious. That's not of God. And I've been out in nature walking, and I have the clip where I'm talking about Jesus. At the beginning of the clip, you have a voice come on, and it says, "Jesus?" Like who's that? So there is an element, and I call it, there's a spiritual dimension to this. You can say they're ETs, but I fundamentally believe, even if we say they are extraterrestrial or ultra-terrestrial, which are beings that are invisible to us but maybe have been here throughout history, alongside mankind, we just don't perceive them. They're just out of phase or something. There's still my concept of God, sovereign of the universe, is still there. That they're created. They're part of nature, part of the natural world. I mean, I don't believe that the angels coexisted with God from the beginning. I think God created them, and that's the idea. That's the concept that I've bought into. Doesn't mean it's perfect. Doesn't mean I'm inerrant. That's how I view the world. So if these beings are here to torment me or whatever, or be mischievous, I don't sense that power. All right, it's not like I'm dealing with Satan. I don't feel like, and maybe that's the grand deception. People think that Satan maybe is Lucifer as the fallen angel is something profoundly monstrous, like in the Bible, the description like a lion seeking to devour people. Well, I mean, maybe that's I haven't encountered that kind of hate and anger in any interactions. I've encountered mischievous qualities almost, and that's where I just don't feel that threat. It doesn't mean that I don't find their vulgarity at times, unsettling, and I don't indulge their negativity. And I think that's the thing. Maybe I see through the manipulation as well when they say, "Oh, you're our favorite," and I have that more than once. And I say, "Well, that's pretty blatant." I said, "I don't buy into it." I said, "Everybody, well, wouldn't that be great? You feel like you're special." I said, "But I'm not. I said, I'm just a regular guy, and life is exciting, and this is at times a distraction. But I'm willing to play along so far." Now, again, that's where the temptation is to, well, I mean, are you doing the devil's bidding by promoting your documentary or by saying that they exist? I mean, should it be something that's just ignored? And I think the scripture says otherwise. I think if you believe in Christian, Judeo-Christian scripture, that Jesus spent a lot of time fighting with evil and identifying it and casting it out. And so, I mean, just to ignore it, if ultimately these beings are revealed to be demonic, well, then I'm actually spotlighting their existence to much to their chagrin, because I don't think they want to be feared, and especially if they were identified as evil, ultimately then a spiritual war waged against them, because the greatest asset the devil has in his minions is probably people not believing that they exist, because then they can get away with most things. Whereas if true believers saw, and the world saw, hey, they're everywhere and they're watching us, making fun of us, and whispering in our ears, so to speak, well, wouldn't that just be counterproductive to, at least my understanding, which is limited to man's understanding? It would seem counterproductive in the grand strategy to have that veil of anonymity or secrecy or camouflage removed and say, no, they're here and they're battling us now, and let's fight, in faith and fight the good fight, as the scriptures say. I just don't see that being the case. It doesn't make any sense. But again, I'm a human being. I could be wrong. I do pray, but I have encountered, like I said, some of these beings would be categorized as, in older scriptures and stuff, it's probably demonic. No doubt about it.
So what does the little man inside your head say? I mean, the other you. I mean, what's the most likely explanation that you tell yourself that you don't want to admit to sometimes?
That probably they're attracted to me because I have a simple faith that ultimately truth and integrity and dignity will prevail. And maybe these, whatever they are, will use an alien ruse or whatever to pique my interest, when really it is well as part of a manipulation. But I can't fathom it, only because it doesn't make sense. And again, I'm trying to be human here. I'm trying to be honest.
I think to me, it sounds like you're dodging it a little bit. And here's one thing that I hear. I mean, these things sound a bit psychopathic and a bit narcissistic. And they're taking some pleasure from you. So what is their goal? I mean, what are they getting from you?
I'm only thinking, like this interview. Now, again, I think as a man, I can't imagine they want to be revealed as minions of the devil, trying to deceive mankind and drag, the human spirit and soul through the gutter and into hell. I think that maybe it's go back to that snow image when I was the magic of snow transforming the world one flake at a time. I'm saying the little things do add up. So not to dodge any questions, Yeah, I have to wrestle with it because 8 out of 10 of them are mischievous. All right, maybe out of those 8, 2 of them are in the category of absolute negative.
Can
right?
you
Questioning God.
identify some of them? Do you know the difference? Do you are you able to tell?
I do. The voice. Now again, I preface this with what I said earlier. The voice could still be a singular entity that is capable of creating affectations and facets of deception, including not just gender, because I've asked them, there are age gradations in your world. There aren't. All right? So these answers, again, it makes you think, well, all I'm trying to get out to the people through you and every outlet is that they exist. Everything beyond that, I'm still wrestling with. I'm not wrestling with the fact they exist. That's what this whole interview and conversation is really about. I want people to understand they exist, and I have evidence that will stand up and withstand full spectrum scientific scrutiny that this isn't fake. This evidence is real. We're not alone. Now, what that means is something else. I'm still wrestling with it. I think there is a real chance that what I'm interacting with is what older generations historically would consider demonic forces. And because of the preponderance of negativity, of sarcasm, of things that we can't consider noble qualities that we aspire to. But if anything, they're qualities that, that usually go hand in hand with destruction. The arrogance, the hubris, the condescension, the making plight, making sport of human plight and suffering. Now they don't make fun. I mean, they do juxtapose. When the one voice, and I go back to what I said earlier, we were in the food line in the van, and the voice comes on, and I make a joke of it, and the kids look at me aghast at the same time. Believe me, it's hard to reconcile this with the overall secular approach to life. And you just like, but when the voice said they don't use the food, it was accusatory, and it was almost as though whatever this being wasn't talking to me alone, but was talking to another and saying, look, they don't use this food in a way it's judgmental. Now, my understanding, Grace as a Christian, one of the attributes of Satan is he's an accuser before God, saying, look, sinners, look at all the vile things they do. Look at, your creation, your wonderful, glorious creation of man, and how man fails you and denies you, and just look at all the warts and all the imperfections versus the virtue. So I'm fully cognizant of even this, when I hear a voice saying they don't use the food, and again, he's saying they, us, but I also, like I said, I sensed, and I don't know how to put it in another word, I sensed this being was also talking to someone, or maybe a congregation, a constellation of others, saying, here's our example. They're wasting food, or they're doing something. It wasn't a positive spin. There's no way to say that sounded like you're getting support on this. It was accusatory. So that puts that, again, it puts it in the framework, in my opinion, of, well, we're being watched, all right? And we're being watched even in the most mundane things, including flatulence, and nothing is sacred according to some of the interactions, whether it's the Lord's Prayer, whether it's the concept, it's thinking about Jesus. And I mean, there are definitely qualities here that would put the majority of the interactions in a camp of adversarial relationship with mankind, or more personally with me. And maybe it is maybe I am an arrogant prick. To even say, hey, these beings, I'm not afraid of them because they're wispy and wimpy, and I mean, where's the Hollywood? Where's if you're going to be downright nasty, let's see some evil, all right? But maybe evil is much more banal, commonplace. Maybe is something just like the snow falling that covers and transforms the world in a night under 3 feet of snow. Maybe it's the same thing. These little whispers add up. All I'm, again, putting on the table is that they exist. Whatever they are shouldn't be there according to our understanding of science. That's it. That's the strongest thing the strongest case I can make, because I can say, check this out. I'm interacting not once in a blue moon, every day, just about every day. I mean, there's always an exception where, hey, it's been a day and I haven't heard anything. And again, I have to choose a lot of times to not interact because they crave the attention. But it goes back to, they exist. That's it. That's
what do you want to do about it? I mean, are you going to just keep on keeping on, or is there a plan? You know?
Well, here's the plan. The plan is get other people involved. In a sense, let's raise that awareness. And maybe I am what these researchers called me the disclosure pawn. Maybe my whole purpose, according to them, is to help bring to the forefront, we're not alone, and this guy's going to be very useful. They're talking about me. They're going to see this guy's going to be useful in getting people up to speed with the fact that we're not alone in the universe. And maybe that's it. Maybe that's my whole job here. I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, I still pray. I still, Easter's coming, and as much as I enjoy rabbits and eggs stuff, I'm still always cognizant of my Christian upbringing, of the significance of sacrifice for your friends and what you believe in, and in the power of the idea of resurrection to overcome even death and scorn and all the negativity and the triumph ultimately for the betterment of the human soul, of your friends, of humanity. We're still loved despite our shortcomings. So maybe when I say my plan, it's always, I wrestle with what are these beings? I wrestle with the significance. I mean, if I came to the absolute realization, crystal clear, that I have made contact, or they made contact with me, with demonic forces, I would probably become some kind of minister of the gospel, because I believe that for them to have done that, there must be a reason that they've done it. And how should I respond? I think my nature would be, well, let's fight that. I mean, it is a spiritual war, and I have to tell as many people the good news that, that we can, definitely resist and together maybe overcome this adversarial relationship. I don't know. I mean, I'm using that as a really extreme position, but the fact is, they exist. Right now, I'm not convinced all of them have interacted with or evil. They say they're alien, though, and they say they're otherworldly and interdimensional. Are they playing games? Sometimes they are. All right. So, and what can I glean from what I've found so far? Specific voices have specific messages. All right. Some of them uplifting, most of them mischievous, most of them also sarcastic at times. But they make you think, and it makes me think. As I said in the documentary that I made, that short 29-minute documentary, Subterranean Séance, The Evidence Speaks, that, if we are being acted upon, maybe even preyed upon, to use that word, by invisible entities, and we can determine this is an adversarial relationship, we maybe can look back through human history and say, have these beings been whispering in the ears of world leaders, of people, to make them make decisions because they didn't even realize on a subliminal level.
I would guarantee that, but
yeah, and I believe that. But I'm saying, but this is the evidence. If I can put it out there and say, here's your evidence that these beings exist, and let's listen to their messages. And do you hear? And you have a computer, because they have computer software that can actually. You have Google Voice, Google Voice account, where it transcribes. Now, it's imperfect, but they have software now that's really good that you can it can listen and not just suggest what it's interpreting, but it can demonstrate it graphically and stuff. And then we can say to the world, to the globe, to the masses, hey, here's the evidence. These beings exist. That's a foregone thing. There is no more arguing about what this is. But what is the meaning. If they're just deceiving us, then we need to start thinking that their intention, the agenda, is a threat. And maybe now we have the evidence, so you need to think about history that other people have always assumed. Like, I've always assumed we weren't alone to start with. Don't get me wrong. We always assume that this cosmos is huge and there's life somewhere. Maybe we need to start in our own backyard saying, my God, these things are here. We can't see them. They're interacting with us, and probably a lot of it's not for our own good. And then, again, somebody would say, well, man, if they're mostly negative, you must be a right bastard that they're, but that's not true.
Yeah.
I think sometimes if you go, again, to the Christian prism, which is not the end-all, be-all. Get me what I'm saying here. I believe, but I'm not telling that's the only way. I think of like a prism, and then there's a whole rainbow on the other side of possibilities. And that white light of truth goes through that, and then you can have Buddhist truth. And the truth, it can be, displayed in all its multiple colors after going through the prism. And the other way, too. You can take the colors.
I think one of the things that tends to happen, too, is that, we're busy people, and we're doing more than we ever have. And we're not in that. You have a Tracfone. If it's not feasible to record something like this on an iPhone, whatever. It's so who knows why, but people tend to ignore a lot of things, and
Sure.
They're so busy they don't really pay attention to even nature or things around them that are normally happening. We're just so out of touch, I guess, is what I'm saying. So, having said that, we could possibly get in touch with that if we took a moment, and whether we want to do that or not. I've had a couple experiences, and I've told this story where I walked into my bathroom one day. I was in the house alone. It's like 1 PM, and this guttural hello. Just as, like from behind me, very loud, and I turned around, opened the door, and I'm running throughout the house trying to find out who's in my house. Nobody was in my house. And, was that something to get my attention? I don't know. And then a week later, I had a credit card that I had in my hand, and I went in the laundry room one early morning and laid it on the dryer. And I heard it just like somebody took it between their fingers and bent it in half and flipped it. It made that sound and flipped and hit the wall and then disappeared. And I didn't find it for a week later, Wow. And so what is that? What is that? So that's something that I noticed. What happens that I don't notice? Have you ever tried to just audio tape, like a cassette, VHS, whatever? To try to get
what?
Have you ever tried a audio tape, like VHS or cassette, to try to record that as well? I'm just curious if that would work.
This is, like I said, this has been very specific to that.
Right.
The researcher, and it's not a specific phone. Believe me, before I made this documentary, I did my due diligence. I actually called Tracfone and told them, as crazy as it is,
I was love
worried
to hear that conversation.
You start thinking, I had to work, it was like 2 hours to get to the right person who said, basically, you have our blessing, we won't sue you. And of course, they didn't put it in writing.
Right.
But I just wanted to, I captured that in the day and time and everything, the person I spoke to. Look, it's so out there. The one forensic specialist that I work with, again, I could probably follow up with this later once I get permission to use his name. But he's well respected in the audio forensic industry and that stuff. Anyhow, he says it's these older model phones that don't use the filtering algorithms, all right, to take out the white noise. There's a specific noise to ratio. What they're using basically in the older models, they're able to somehow take ambient white noise, all right, and that's what they're using to create these utterances. Phoneme by phoneme, it can be graphed out. The older phones, none of the phones even have to be, they have to be on to record, but they don't have to be network enabled, all right? So it's not like it has to, I don't have to have a Tracfone that's been prepaid that's actually on the network. All I have to do is turn on the device and use the voice recorder. And I've used multiple ones side by side to see in different distances. I've had these scientists tell me, try this experiment. I've done it in this setting, and what I'm able to do with some remote viewing. They have a question. The question would pop up, like they know we're going to take my lunch break, all right? So like, we will let you know the question at 2 minutes before 12. We want the answer within 5 minutes of, it's 5 after 12. And I've done that, all right, because I've prepped it, because the day before when I have the interaction, I say, tomorrow is going to be a test. Here's what you need to be ready for. I need to have you wanting to interact with me at this time, all right? They've done it, and they've got the answers correct. It's just, it's weird because, it goes back to, well, then it proves is a strong word, that this is not something that's just localized to my brain, but these beings have access to information my brain doesn't. Outside of me, they're able to interact with something in Canada, one researcher's in Canada, and they're able to say what's in a blue can next to a person's desk, and then all within a few minutes. So again, it's just like we aren't doing random guessing here. And they set up these protocols, and I played along. And right before the U.S. went to, strike back at Iran, and then we anticipated there'd be a retaliatory strike as well. There were some questions asked and stuff, and I relayed some information to some people about the response. It's crazy stuff. And so some of these people, I'm going to tell you up front, I've got death threats. They've called friends and family. They have said things that I need to stop looking into things like this. There have been people who have claimed that, I wouldn't be hurt, but they would. Basically, they're, and I just have to take pause. I mean, God forbid. I mean, I prayed a lot about this, going forward, that should I be scared into silence, or because I talked to these people and some of my relatives and said, I don't want anyone to suffer because I'm poking my nose into maybe some mysteries that I shouldn't be. But the person, maybe I can get a hold of the message that was left on one of the person's phones. Basically, he said I need to stop looking into UFOs, ghosts, and aliens, or else, your safety's in jeopardy. And this was over a year ago. And it's just, I don't know. I don't know what it means.
I think you're good. I mean, there's weirdos out there who like to mess with us.
Yeah, there are. And I actually got a coded message that was sent. I have it. I could share with you if you want to have it analyzed. It doesn't show up, and it has to go through software, but then it gets decoded, and it's basically telling the day and stuff that they're going to kill. It's a threat, and it's just like people will even play games and stuff. Number one, I mean, look, I go back to what I said earlier. I believe I'm saved. I believe I'm going to make it, regardless. If I die doing what I believe in, so be it. I mean, there's always martyrs through history, but I'm not afraid. And that goes back to, I'm not afraid. I put everything in perspective. I'm not afraid of whispers. I want people to realize it's a distraction. It's interesting. There's definitely a part of me that, but if you can read my page and in the documentary, I'm inviting other people to research it too. I don't, there's strength in numbers. So the message goes forward regardless of whether I'm there to deliver it. And I think that's the key thing when these death threats came to my friends and family, that I said we need to be in agreement that the message is more important. And that I was willing to stop, but people agreed that they want the people to know something's going on here, something we don't understand. what I'm putting on the table is these things shouldn't be here. According to science as we understand it, these voices, when you amplify, the key to this whole thing is amplifying these whispers, then you will hear these beings interacting in real time, answering messages like my pigeon one. You can analyze that. I mean, it's just so stupid. Why would anything care about whether I sell some pigeons or not? But it has an opinion, a loud and clear opinion at the beginning, as you heard the clip.
Well, I think it's a good interaction that they definitely are trying to prove to you that they can interact on any level, and anything very insignificant they can talk on those subjects or communicate on those subjects rather.
Yeah, and so
it's a message.
If you were to say, all right, Gary, you got to categorize this right now. What are you dealing with? What do you believe in your heart of hearts? I'm going to say there's some kind of angelic beings. Celestial is probably always, because I think celestial up, positive. Angelic, you can be fallen or not. And then the fallen angels obviously will be considered demonic because they, are understand. I'm not an angel. I'm far from a good person even. I'm a good guy, but I'm human, and that's not an excuse, but it's the truth. I'm a sinner. And I'm just, if you want to crucify me, that's not hard to do, but you can't crucify the story. And that's where, I've had people, and they're like, you really have a relaxed attitude about it. I say, well, how else are you supposed to deal with it? I mean, I'm not going to sit here and cower. That's not how I'm made. God didn't make me to sit here on my knees screaming, don't hurt me. I mean, I know people who have the philosophy, they will roll over like a little dog and put their tummies up and say, please don't kick me. And God didn't make me that way. Right? And it doesn't mean that it's always right to be to strike back harder. But that the idea is everyone has been made, I believe, for some purpose, not destiny. Don't think that's too far. But I'm made to see that I am fallible and I have all the human foibles and stuff. And as I said in the documentary, you want to attack me, that's easy. And part of the documentary, as you know, is filmed in a cemetery, a good portion of it, or the local cemetery here, because I wanted that to be the backdrop to represent the gravity of what I'm saying. That, hey, this isn't just, a joke. I mean, there's something serious. And I used to work in that cemetery as I go into the documentary. I used to work there in the 90s. They were nice people. I worked with the undertakers and stuff. But it gave me that sense of completion in life. That, hey, everybody, you live, you die. And a lot of people, that's what you're reduced to, a stone, and nobody even comes anymore after a few years to visit it. Not that the person's there. As I say in the documentary, as you know, that I believe that there are eggshells in the cemetery, that the soul is already going on, hatched in the sense of going on to heaven or wherever, just rewards one way or another. But then I say that I'm walking on eggshells on purpose, because the idea is this is almost taboo. And I'm not disrespecting the dead by being in the cemetery, and there's a sense of peace there. I mean, historically, cemeteries even were considered parks. People would go have picnics with their passed on loved ones. They'd have a picnic in the cemetery. Yeah,
they're nice
but that's
places.
history that a lot of times, as you were saying earlier, humanity, our culture has gotten so desensitized from what we really are in our history, and we just are so busy doing the things that entertain us, or we chase after whatever fleeting fun at the moment, that we don't really understand the context, the bigger picture anymore. These beings exist. That's it. It's frightening. It's disturbing, as maybe uplifting as that can be too. To say, hey, we're not alone, even if it's something negative. Now we know. I don't think most people react that way. I think sometimes that whole idea of me being a disclosure pawn, I don't want to bring heartache to anyone. If your bubble is believing that there's nothing and there's nothing interacting with us, and there's no perhaps afterlife or any adversarial relationship or anything otherwise, and you just have your life and then you blink out of existence, maybe that's going to make you uncomfortable to deal with what I'm saying with, because how do you reconcile that? You're probably not going to be happy to think maybe life is a lot more mysterious and a lot more complex and a lot more you have to take it more seriously than maybe some people do. I don't know. Again, I don't want to be a preacher here, but I try to put everything in the bigger picture of something's going on.
It is
I
what
have
it
evidence.
is.
I'd love to share with as many people as want to experience it. The only reason I'm charging a couple dollars is I put it together on a single shoestring budget. Right? I'm not a rich guy by any stretch. I work in academia. Let's just say everything. And it's just this to fund filming the next installment and stuff. A few extra dollars here would help. To maybe bring the level up a little bit.
So we need to switch gears a little bit, because I do want you to talk about the documentary and where it's located, how people pick it up, and what it costs, and what they're going to see. So we got like 5 minutes, and let's just jump into that, because it's real important. I don't want to miss that, and it's interesting, and I think people would enjoy it.
Okay, well, thank you. Subterranean Séance. All right, that's the name of the documentary. All right, 2 words, Subterranean Séance. You can look it up. You can look it up, Subterranean Séance on Gumroad. All right, Gumroad is where, because they have the best rates, I thought, well, this is better. I get a better percentage than if I had it on Vimeo. And at some point in the future, it'll probably be free. But right now, it's helping me fund the next installment, and then hopefully it'll be a little higher quality. I'm not going to use CGI and stuff. I'm not into special effects. I mean, what little I have in the first one, the fake lightning bolt, that's as far as it goes.
It's good though.
You've seen it, and it's amateur and it's low key, but the focus has to be the message. The message is we're not alone, and that's it. That's the mind-blowing thing, because believe me, those are the 2 big questions, as you've heard. Anybody who's into alien shows or ghosts, 2 big questions: are we alone in the universe, and is there life after death? Well, I think I'm bridging the gap here. I mean, there's something going on that I think could fall into either category. I certainly believe it falls definitely in the we're not alone category, to say that they try to tell me, these beings do, that there's an afterlife, in the sense that they're interacting with what are dead people and stuff. And I'm like, but again, I don't take them at their word on purpose. I just put out there that they exist. And you also, if you go to Subterranean Séance and then the word medium, that's where I have my big spread. If you want to see it, it's got all the links and everything, and the news, and the different press releases and stuff. Hey, I mean, I'm working the grassroots up. That's my approach. All right. So the mainstream media is not going to embrace this. It's just that simple. That's just reality. For a while, until there's overwhelming evidence, and even the debunkers and stuff, the skeptics will have to say, well, okay. But right now, that's not going to happen. We're just working the grassroots. You can check me out on those avenues, and that's pretty much it.
Is that We Are Not Alone website? Is that yours?
Yeah, it's a Subterranean Séance, and it's Medium. It's through Medium where you can publish stuff, and it's got all kinds of links to. It's even got local papers that I've been in and stuff. So it's got all the information there, and you could even launch. That's a perfect launch pad to go on to the actual documentary. 29 minutes, less than the price of a McDonald's Happy Meal. It's $2.99.
You can't even buy a latte for that.
I know, it's cheap. I'm not trying to make. Believe me, there are better ways I could be probably more respected, less ridiculed, and be wealthy. But this apparently is the path I'm on, and for better or worse, I believe for better. That's why I'm in it to win it, so to speak. People need to know we're not alone. It's that simple. And then what these beings are up to, that's a whole other story. And we need to figure that out, because I really.
You have a good pitch, though. I mean, you're telling a very, very convincing story. I mean, it's not like there's stories that I hear all the time that maybe I'm not going to believe, but there's a lot of verisimilitude. The word. What I'm trying to spit that word out. I'm sorry, I messed it up. Verisimilitude. Believability. I should have just said believability.
It sounds legit. Because it is legit. And I'm willing to. You can write me through my email at wearenot.alone@post.com. All right, and I can send people clips if they want to analyze them. separately. Believe me, the documentary is the best place to start. Then you can get a flavor for what's going on. I literally have over 1,000 clips here. All right, every day I'm adding to it. Just about every day I interact. No, if anybody's interested, I'm not contacting people who have passed on. I'm not about being a medium or anything. Some people say that's what you are. I'm like, I don't believe that. I don't think that it's specific to me. I think that I've just been fortunate, or maybe cursed. I mean, blessed or cursed, depends on how you look at it, enough to say, well, hey, these, whatever they are, decided they wanted to interact with me, and I'm willing to listen up to a point, but I don't function, or I don't operate on following their directives or anything like that. This is all about they exist. That's it.
They exist, and that's it. Awesome. Hey, Gary Arnold, thank you so much. And you know, one of the easiest places to find him is on Facebook, and he can hook you up, because watch the movie. Ask for a couple of clips. They're very interesting. You could hear lots of clips during the documentary, though, which is mixed with some other things, and it makes it very interesting. Gary Arnold, let's do this again. I mean, you have a lot to talk about, and I know we could have probably went another hour and a half, but
you know it. I'm a marathon guy.
Right.
I love to, and I love to share. This is so mind-blowing. This is so mind-boggling, mind-melting. Call it what you will. It's out there, and I'm willing to share.
It's out there. Gary Arnold, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You can find my website at www.myalienlifepodcast.com, and please subscribe to my latest downloads at iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and at podbean.com. And please follow me and like me on Facebook and Twitter. My Alien Life is written and produced for broadcast at Studio 254 in the Northern Rocky Mountains. The music you are hearing is produced and created by Elion. You can find all Elion's work online at Heart Dance Records.